now, and most of the debate has revolved around who possesses the animatronic and what makes them so special. There's been a lot of talk about this topic recently, so I thought I'd make a video detailing exactly what I think about Golden Freddy, featuring evidence that you may have never heard before. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get started. While researching for this video, I've once again realized that the order the game's released in matters, especially with Golden Freddy. Scott has gone on record saying that he likes to use new games to answer questions from past games. And that's very true when it comes to Golden Freddy. This is going to be a lot easier to understand if we go game by game, so let's make a timeline. In August of 2014, we were introduced to Golden Freddy in Fnaf 1, and in that game he appeared as almost a ghostly type figure, rarely appearing on the poster outside your door, in the hallway, or in your office, surrounded by the words, "It's me." When you stare at Golden Freddy for too long, he'll jump scare you, but his jump scare is not like the rest. Instead of a full body 3D animated jump scare, you only see his head, and he crashes your game. Back in 2014, we knew with the context of the nightly phone calls and posters on the walls that kids were haunting the animatronics. Golden Freddy, though, clearly acted different from the rest. So for some reason, he must have been special, but we didn't know why. Then, in November of 2014, Golden Freddy returned in Fnaf 2, featuring a new design, but all of the same tricks. He once again could randomly appear in your office, his head could appear in the hallway, and if you stared at him for too long, you would once again get jump scared by his floating head. As far as the lore is concerned, Fnaf 2 only heightened what we already knew about Golden Freddy. We knew that he was probably one of the missing children, and we knew that Scott was trying to emphasize that there was something different about Golden Freddy, but we still didn't know why he was different. In March of 2015, we got Fnaf 3, and with it, a few more details surrounding Golden Freddy. A huge chunk of the game revolved around freeing the spirits of the missing children, especially the spirit possessing Golden Freddy. After completing all of the secret minigames and giving cake to all of the missing kids, you're able to free the spirit of Golden Freddy in the Happiest Day minigame. This once again establishes that the Golden Freddy kid was different for some reason. In the End of Night minigames, you get to play as each animatronic, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, with each minigame ending with Afton disassembling the animatronics. After the main 4 animatronics are disassembled, you play as a spirit. When you enter the safe room, it's revealed you are the 5th spirit, presumably the spirit who possesses Golden Freddy. While the other 4 spirits are blocking the door, the Golden Freddy spirit is once again being shown as different from the rest, seemingly coming off as more aggressive than the other spirits. The spirit chases Afton around the room, leading him to get into the Spring Bonnie suit and get spring-locked. 3 games into the franchise, we knew that the Golden Freddy spirit was special, seemingly being the leader of the group, shown through the Happiest Day minigame and the Afton spring-lock scene, but we still didn't know why this was the case. Cut to July of 2015 when we got Fnaf 4. Suddenly, Golden Freddy, aka Fredbear, was in the spotlight. In this game, we got a huge chunk of lore relating to the crying child, and the days leading up to him getting bit by Fredbear. At the time, this didn't really give us any concrete information about who possesses Golden Freddy, mostly because it wasn't immediately clear that the crying child was the spirit possessing Golden Freddy. The main way a kid went on to possess an animatronic in this series was Afton killing them and them getting stuffed into a suit. But the crying child was different. He wasn't killed by Afton. He was killed on accident and died later from his injuries, nowhere near the Fredbear suit. Because of this, the mystery of who possesses Golden Freddy as of the release of Fnaf 4 was still up for debate. In January of 2016, we got Fnaf World, and right when we booted up the game, we knew that this was a continuation of the story from Fnaf 4. We see the same voice from the end of Fnaf 4 saying the same thing, "I will put you back together," insinuating that this game revolves around the crying child and putting him back together. So what does putting the crying child back together even mean? Well, throughout the game, you're instructed to find clocks, and with each clock you collect, you're put into a little minigame. These minigames mirror what we see in Fnaf 3. These are directly connected to the minigames you had to complete to set up the Happiest Day and free the spirit inside Golden Freddy. The task to put the crying child back together was actually us setting up the Happiest Day minigame, therefore connecting the crying child to that minigame. Fnaf 4 and Fnaf World were all about showing us that the Golden Freddy kid in the Happiest Day minigame was the crying child. The next game where we got info about who specifically possesses Golden Freddy was Fnaf 6 in December 2017. At the end of the game, we got an image of 6 gravestones: Gabriel, Fritz, Susie, Jeremy, one grave off to the side covered with grass, and one on the hill in the back. The graves with actual names on them represent the spirits inside the 4 main animatronics, matching almost perfectly with the Fnaf 3 ending image. Freddy is Gabriel, Fritz is Foxy, Susie is Chica, and Jeremy is Bonnie. From what we've seen throughout the series, the spirits of Freddy, Foxy, Chica, Bonnie, and Golden Freddy are almost always grouped together. Using that logic, this mystery grave grouped with the main four would be Golden Freddy, and the grave in the back would presumably be the puppet, Charlie. The big question relating to this image is obviously, why is the Golden Freddy kid's name being kept a secret? At this point, because of FNAF 4 and FNAF World, we were pretty sure that the Golden Freddy kid was the crying child. Why not just reveal the crying child's name? Well, that brings us to the FNAF Survival Logbook, which was released literally 3 weeks after FNAF 6. This book was obviously supposed to be released alongside FNAF 6, and this is further proven by what the book was trying to tell us. It's revealed that the book was an old security logbook that once belonged to Michael Afton. It's established that Michael wrote in the book using red pen, so whenever we see a drawing or words written in red, we know it was him. But if you look closer, you can see that there's another entity talking in the book, speaking through the faded writing. They mostly ask a bunch of questions, such as, is this song familiar to you, and what can you see? But the most important thing they write is the words, my name. You can see this a few times throughout the book, but most notably, you can see it written on a gravestone that Michael drew. With this book being released so close to FNAF 6, Scott was clearly using it to give us the name of that fifth spirit, the Golden Freddy spirit. And you would think that the FNAF community, one of the most dedicated and lore-hungry communities on the planet, would figure this out in no time. But looking back, that was not the case. While researching for this video, I was reminded that it literally took 6 months for the community to find the name. Reddit user DPowerful1 figured out that if you use the random numbers scattered throughout the book and plug them into the word search, you get Cassidy. Cassidy was the name of the kid inside Golden Freddy. And I think it's important to point out that Cassidy only writes the words my name on pages that give us the numbers to help find the name Cassidy, solidifying to me that the name Cassidy belongs to the spirit writing in faded text. But like I said earlier, Cassidy can be seen asking questions throughout the book, and someone does respond to those questions, but it's not Mike. It's a third entity speaking in the book. When Cassidy asks, what do you see? They respond, I can't see, altering the text on the page. But a big question that reveals the identity of the third speaker is, does he still talk to you next to the Fredbear plush? And was your favorite childhood toy a plastic purple telephone? These questions are clearly telling us that the entity speaking through the altered text is the crying child. At this point, everyone was confused. The last few games were basically flat out telling us that the Golden Freddy spirit, especially in the Happiest Day minigame, was the crying child. And now we've got this book telling us that there's another spirit named Cassidy who is also claiming to be the Golden Freddy spirit. We now have 2 kids claiming to be the spirit inside Golden Freddy. How can this work? Well, let's talk about Ultimate Custom Night, released in June of 2018, only 3 weeks after Cassidy's name was found. At this point, everyone in the series, including Afton, was burnt to the ground by Henry in FNAF 6. Henry tried to put an end to everything, but there's one spirit who wouldn't let William Afton rest. Enter the one you should not have killed. What we learned through all of the voice lines in the game is that this kid, the one you should not have killed, does not want William Afton to rest. He wants revenge, so he's keeping Afton trapped in an endless loop of death, forcing him to die over and over again. You can even see the face and hear the voice of the one you should not have killed throughout the game. His face shows up randomly in the death screens, and his voice can be heard through the mediocre melody animatronics.
We've only just begun. I will never let you leave. I will never let you rest.
So who is the one you should not have killed? Well, I think the final cutscene of the game gives us that answer. If you get a score of at least 9800, you unlock the final cutscene, where we see Golden Freddy twitching with both eyes lit, fading into the darkness. This lines up directly with what we learn about the one you should not have killed. A spirit that refuses to move on, who wants revenge on William Afton.
I will hold you here. I will keep you here, no matter how many times they burn us.
To me, this heavily implies that the one you should not have killed is not only the spirit inside Golden Freddy, but Cassidy, the second spirit inside Golden Freddy that we were introduced to in the logbook. Like I said earlier, Scott likes to use new games to answer questions from past games. Because of this, the order in which FNAF games and products are released is very important. In FNAF 6, Scott introduced a question: what is the name of the Golden Freddy kid? 3 weeks later, Scott released the survival logbook, where he gave us the answer. But even though we got got that answer, the logbook introduced a few new questions. We know Cassidy isn't the crying child, so who are they? Why are they important, and how can there be two spirits claiming to be inside of one animatronic? 6 months after the logbook came out, we got Ultimate Custom Night, where we got the answers to those first two questions. All of that build-up, from the mystery grave in Fnaf 6, to finding Cassidy's name in the logbook, to figuring out that Cassidy is not the crying child, but a separate character also inside of Golden Freddy, all of that build-up led us to Ultimate Custom Night, where we see this new character take center stage as the one you should not have killed. But there's still one question left. There are two spirits claiming to be inside Golden Freddy, Cassidy the Vengeful Spirit and the Crying Child. How does that work? Well, a year and a half after Ultimate Custom Night, the Fazbear Frights books started coming out. And in these books, we got the story of the Stitch Wraith, an animatronic that contains the spirits of two kids, Andrew and Jake. Andrew is revealed to be a victim of William Afton, who is very vengeful and angry. Jake is revealed to be a kid who was not killed by William Afton, but died from a brain tumor surrounded by his plushie that had a walkie-talkie inside of it. This directly mirrors what we see with Cassidy and the Crying Child. Cassidy, the more vengeful spirit killed by William Afton, and the Crying Child, the one who wasn't killed by Afton but died from a brain injury, both possessing one animatronic. In the Stitch Wraith stories and the Fazbear Frights books, we hear a lot about the dynamic between Andrew and Jake. We learn that they both possess different parts of the animatronic. Andrew possesses the body while Jake possesses the head. Because Jake possesses the head, he is in control of the animatronic's movements and can see the outside world. Since Andrew possesses the body, he can't see anything or move the animatronic. What's also made clear is that they both don't remember very much about their past, and that they can talk to each other from inside the Stitch Wraith, with them mostly trying to figure out what they remember. If you haven't put it together yet, this is exactly what we see in the survival logbook. Cassidy and the Crying Child, possessing the same animatronic, talking to each other, trying to figure out what they remember. Cassidy says, "What do you remember? Was your favorite childhood toy a plastic purple telephone?" But the most important question in the whole book is this. Cassidy says, "What do you see?" And the Crying Child responds, "I can't see." This exactly mirrors what we see with Andrew and Jake. Quote, "Hi Andrew," Jake said. "Why can't I see anything?" Andrew demanded. "How come you can see and I can't?" In the books, Andrew, the vengeful and angry spirit, possesses the body of the Stitch Wraith and can't see. And Jake, who isn't vengeful and wasn't killed by Afton, possesses the head and can see. What the logbook is telling us, though, is that in the games, it's the exact opposite. The Crying Child is the one who says he can't see, which means he is the one possessing the body of Golden Freddy, while Cassidy, the vengeful spirit, is the one possessing the head. It's not the Crying Child in control, it's the vengeful spirit Cassidy. The Crying Child is helpless. All he can do is try to reach out and tell his brother Michael that he's there too. It's me. It doesn't stop there, though. The Stitch Wraith story establishes that a spirit needs to remember or be put into one of their happiest memories in order to move on, aka their happiest day. Towards the end of the Stitch Wraith story, Jake is able to help a bunch of kids who were killed. He does this by essentially going back to their memory of being killed and changing it, making that terrible memory into a happy one. This allows the spirits to be at peace. How does this translate to the games? Well, this is exactly what the Happiest Day minigame is in Fnaf 3. This minigame is showing us the Crying Child's happiest day. In the security logbook, there's a page that talks about the happiest day, where it specifically says in bold, "Reflect on the happiest day of your life," with an image of the puppet handing a cake to a child. If you do what it says and take the image of the Happiest Day minigame and reflect it, what do you see? The Crying Child's birthday party from Fnaf 4, where he got bit. Like we established earlier, the main goal with Fnaf World is to set up the Happiest Day minigame for the Crying Child. But have you ever stopped to question why we have to collect clocks in order to do this? It's because we are literally going back to that terrible memory of the Crying Child getting bit and changing it, making it so that in his mind, that terrible day was a great one. People have pointed out throughout the years that the map of Fnaf World looks like a brain. This is because we are literally in the mind of the Crying Child, metaphorically going back in time in his mind and changing the memory of that terrible day, turning it into a happy one and helping him be able to move on. So far, we've learned that in the games, there are potentially two spirits inside Golden Freddy, Cassidy the Vengeful Spirit and the Crying Child. In the logbook, we see them communicating for the first time, trying to figure out what each other remembers about their past. In the logbook, the Crying Child says that he can't see. Using what we know from the Stitch Wraith stories and the Fazbear Frights books, the Crying Child is possessing the body of Golden Freddy, while Cassidy is possessing the head. Cassidy is the one in full control of the Golden Freddy animatronic. Oddly enough, this almost lines up perfectly with what we see in the Fnaf movie. Speaking of the Fnaf movie, after the Fnaf movie came out, Matthew Lillard spoke in an interview where he basically said that the movies are meant to help fill in the blanks of the story in the games.
Frankly, our job in that movie is to deliver lore, but so much of the game is like fans have for so long filled in the blanks, and our job is to fill in where we can and what Scott and Emma thinks appropriate.
And I think that's especially true for Golden Freddy. The Golden Freddy kid is clearly established to be the leader of the group and is in full control of the Golden Freddy animatronic. If everything I've presented in this video is true, that would make this kid Cassidy, our vengeful spirit from the games. And if you look at the picture of the vengeful spirit in the games next to the Golden Freddy kid in the movie, they are nearly identical. But if this kid is our Cassidy stand-in, that would also mean that he's not the only one possessing Golden Freddy in the movie. Him having full control of the animatronic lines up with what we presented earlier. But is there any proof that there's a second spirit inside Golden Freddy in the movie? Well, throughout the movie, we get to see this drawing of the 5 missing children holding hands with Spring Bonnie. We've got Foxy, Chica, Freddy, Bonnie, and the blonde-haired Golden Freddy kid. But if you look closely, you can see that there's something different about the Golden Freddy kid. What's different is that his face was glued on top of another kid's face. There's another kid possessing Golden Freddy, being suppressed and overpowered by the blonde kid, just like we see in the books and just like what I think we're seeing in the games. Who is the other kid inside Golden Freddy in the movie? I think it might actually be Garrett, Michael's younger brother. And just like in the games, Michael's younger brother is helpless and not in control of Golden Freddy. All he can do is try to reach out in any way he can, trying to let his brother know that he's here too. It's me. Changing people's bad memories